All right, we now have head coach Dave Rubio, and we will open it up for questions.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Now, when you look back at the Washington matches, what do you take away from that? Or is there anything new that you saw that you liked?
Well, I think there was from one week to the next, and certainly Washington at this stage in their development isn't, where Utah is. But that being said, I thought we improved quite a bit from one match in 1 week to the next match. So I was really pleased with a lot of aspects to the match. So notwithstanding the loss, which is, losing is always, there's a lot of suffering that goes with that. But if you just to analyze the match in and itself, the setting was significantly better. I thought, with the exception of set 2, where Emery struggled, she really set a very good, very clean match in the 4 sets. I thought our blocking was significantly better, even though defensively we didn't play very good defense. One of the reasons why we lost game 5. But we put in a new wheel, so there was a new lineup out there. And what I mean by that, the players are probably the same, but the positions that we're playing are different. So the serving was much different. Delara became an asset for us as a server, and we took her off the jump topspin serve into a deep float bomb serve, which was, as you saw in game 1, I think the score was 6-0. She had 2 aces and really served Washington out of system. So there were a lot of really good things that happened throughout that match, and I just give credit to just the way that we practiced, the things that we worked on and practiced, last week. So hopefully we're on an upward trend. With a young team like this, your improvement's going to be substantial in the beginning, and hopefully that just continues from week to week.
Did you expect to have such good performances, especially after the match at Utah? And then you come out and you sort of knock it out of the park. I know you didn't win, but you had tremendous performances by these athletes.
It was really, you go from Utah, the goal is to score 15 points a set. So your team is scoring 50. So, when we opened up against Utah, the most points that we scored a set was 11. And so we've been talking about that from the very beginning. It's like we got to average 15 to 16 points. And I knew that we were going to be deficient going into Utah. And then all of a sudden we came out game 1, we had 18 points in the first set. And then I think it was dropped down to 12 and then went back up to 16. So just the scoring alone really made a big difference for us. And a lot of that had to do with the distribution was better. The wheel was better for us in terms of distributing the ball. We're still trying to find our way through which players can do what. Obviously Sophia had a pretty tremendous match offensively. I wasn't really expecting that. I wasn't sure if she had that in her, being a freshman and all. So that part was really surprising for us. I think China is making some terrific strides as an attacker and as a blocker, and Emery certainly as well. So there's the real aspects that, as we go from week to week and players start to develop, I'm not quite sure, what to expect. Hopefully we play another really good match against Stanford this coming weekend.
Speaking of Stanford, they lost some pretty important players. They're a little bit younger this year, but Kevin's still got, Stanford. What do you expect from them?
Well, Stanford reloads, but they lost 6 starters, and all 6 starters were really significant. The All-American level players. So I think regardless of their reloading, they may have brought in the top class in the country last semester or so, but their setter, they had a setter in the program that's going to step right in the shoes for the setter that just graduated, and she'll be terrific. They still have the one middle blocker that's there. The outside hitter, Kendall Kipp, who took over for Catherine Plummer when she was out for most of the season, so she'll be back. And then they have just kind of a bunch of kids that are super athletic. come from top club programs. So they're not going to be as down as I would, as you would hope as the opposing coach they would be. But I don't think they're going to be hitting on all cylinders either. I mean, we're going to be their very first match of the year. And there's always some, just trying to figure some things out, because he, like myself, isn't quite sure what he can expect from the players, even though they come in with, a highly touted freshman class. I think that, once you practice is one thing, matches are another.
What do you think about that performance by Sophia? And did you expect it? Like you said, that she's a freshman. You didn't think it was going to come so soon.
Yeah. She was just kind of an unknown commodity. I mean, how she applies herself in practice always gives you an idea of the kind of player that she's going to be, not currently is. And, when she came in September, and you can imagine transitioning from a foreign country going to the U.S., and she doesn't really speak English, she doesn't feel comfortable speaking English even now. I think she understands it pretty well. And then the system of volleyball is completely different. The technique is different. So there was just a tremendous transition that had to go on with her starting in September. So we weren't, as a coaching staff, we knew that she had the potential to be a full-time player and the potential to be a terrific attacker. We just didn't know when that was going to happen. And you could just tell that just by how she applied herself in practice. She's really diligent, attention to detail type of player, and not an exceptional athlete. It wasn't like she was jumping out of the gym and touching 10-7 or 10-8 like someone like Devin Cross or Liz Shelton. And so, it doesn't surprise me, but I am surprised that it's happened so quickly. Now, remember, it only happened one weekend. I mean, that's the other thing. I'm not ready to anoint her as the second coming yet until she can do it back to back and do it over a couple of different, weekends. But certainly the potential is there, and certainly how she applies herself in practice every single day allows her to kind of be in a learning curve that she's on and improve so quickly like she's had. Stanford should be interesting. It's going to be they're really, really athletic. I mean, I think clearly the most athletic team in the conference, although Oregon is also super athletic, but whether or not they can function, and that'll be the question. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the match unfolds. They'll be significantly better on Sunday than they are on Friday. That I'm pretty sure of.
Well, I wanted to
they
ask.
haven't even been practicing indoors, right? They've been practicing outside.
Right. So they've been, it was somewhat of a surprise. They had canceled the match, and then a week ago they said the match is back on. So, yeah, I mean, it would be difficult, even if they were in the gym the full time like we have been. But they've been outdoors playing on, the tennis courts and, dealing with the inclement weather that goes with being outside. And, and then, you haven't played any matches. So, again, I think that they're so athletic, they're so good that they'll end up being, a lot better on Sunday than they are on Friday. Maybe. I mean, who knows with Stanford? I mean, they've been the class of the conference for many years. You have to remember that I think it's once a decade that we actually beat those guys. It may be a little too soon. I mean, I think we beat them when Panina's senior year. I think that was in 2016. Is that right, Danny?
Yeah.
So I may need another another few years before I'm allowed to beat those guys. So we'll see. It's kind of like women's basketball. It's the same kind of deal. It doesn't happen very often. Although Adia is certainly, right there. And so we'll see what happens in their case.
Anything else for Coach Rubio? Okay.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
This is obviously the first time we've done this, but we have Sofia Maldonado Diaz, the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week, and we have our manager, Izzy Barnhard, who is going to translate. And just so you guys know, kind of a cool story, Izzy's dad is actually Mark Barnhart, who's the head coach at Oregon State. So pretty cool story Izzy has. And we're very, very grateful to her for being here to help translate. So ask the questions and try to keep them short. Sophia's going to answer in Spanish, and Izzy will translate her answers into English.
I'll go ahead and go first. You used to be a middle blocker. What's been the biggest change for you moving away from that position, especially in the back row?
Pues especialmente la recepción, porque una central, una middle blocker en México no recibe. Creo que ha sido jugar en la parte de atrás, en recepción, defensa y rematar por la parte de atrás.
The most difficult part for her has been the reception. Usually as a middle blocker in Mexico, she never played back row. So this has been a transition of passing, learning defense, and all of that.
And I have one more, I'll go ahead. I've heard you compared to Samantha Brioso. When you hear that, what do you think? What does it mean to you? And do you think it's accurate?
Pues sí, ella, pues en México es una gran admiración para todas las jugadoras mexicanas y claro, creo que todas las voleibolistas mexicanas queremos seguir sus pasos y llegar a donde ella ha llegado.
In Mexico, Samantha Brioso is a great admiration for many of the female volleyball players, and a lot of the players aspire to get to that level. So it's a great honor for her to be considered like someone of Samantha Brioso's level.
I'll ask one. What do you remember from your recruiting process, and how did this opportunity to Arizona come about?
Pues recuerdo que Dave siempre estuvo, pues ahí me hacían unos comentarios de pues que esperaba que yo pudiera venir acá. Me vio jugar un par de veces con mi equipo, pero en ese equipo pues yo era central, entonces pues él me tuvo mucha como, o sea, como él siempre vio como algo en mí y pues eso lo aprecio mucho.
During the process, Dave was in pretty constant communication with Sophia, and he actually went to go see her play when she was in the middle position. And he always kind of had this confidence in her and just stuck by her through this whole process.
And other than Dave, is there a reason that you really like Arizona? I know they have a really good history of outside hitters here, and it's also pretty close. It's obviously close to Mexico as well.
Sí, o sea, él es una gran parte de por lo que estoy aquí, que me gusta estar aquí y porque sé que él pues tiene mucha experiencia con las jugadoras, entonces sí, pues es lo que más me gusta.
Yeah, the fact that Arizona, Tucson in particular, is so close to Mexico was a big factor in her deciding to come here, along with the coaching staff as a whole, but especially Dave.
Hi, Sophia. This is PJ. You had such a great performance this past weekend. Did you expect something like that to happen so quickly?
No, sabía que ese momento podía llegar, no sabía cuándo, pero pues hemos trabajado muchísimo todo el equipo y pues creo que se dio rápido y pues lo más difícil va a ser pues mantenerlo, pero pues bien.
She was pleasantly surprised to do that well in that game. She did think that she would get to that level, but at that pace, that was surprising in a good way. And she said that the team has been working very hard together. So the question now is going to be, can we maintain that, and looking forward to competing more.
Great. And how do you think that your experience playing for Team Mexico has prepared you for Arizona?
Creo que me ha preparado mucho porque cuando jugamos los partidos en México, también con el equipo nacional, son todas jugadoras pues, de diferentes lugares. Entonces creo que me ha preparado mucho como a la adaptación en un equipo, porque pues también cuando llegué aquí todas eran nuevas, o sea, no nos conocíamos entre nosotras, y creo que eso es lo que más me ha ayudado.
In Mexico, the team was very similar in the fact that all the players were from different parts of the country. And so that's helped her to integrate herself easier, and become a part of the team with ease, even though these girls never knew each other before coming in, but they've been able to come together, and being on the national team helped her with that.
How did you get started playing volleyball, and what do you love about it so much?
Empecé a los 12 años de edad, porque tengo una hermana mayor y ella jugaba, y yo antes jugaba fútbol, soccer, y me cambié al voleibol, pero al inicio nada más como hobby, y ya después me fue gustando cada vez más.
Sophia started playing volleyball when she was 12. She actually used to play soccer before volleyball, and her older sister played before she did. And so she kind of introduced her to the sport. And in the beginning, it was more of a hobby, something she enjoyed doing. But then as she kept playing, it became something that she really loved and was passionate about.
And who of your teammates have really helped you adjust to Arizona and also to Coach Rubio's style of play?
Creo que todas en cierta parte, pero no sé, siento como, por ejemplo, una afinidad como más cercana con las otras dos jugadoras que son internacionales, que es Dilara y Merle. Y pues sí.
In a certain way, everyone on the team has helped her in their own kind of way, but she's felt a closeness with the other international players, Dilara and Merla, because they have that in common, and they've just been able to have that to get along.
One of your teammates recently said that you told them that you feel a lot more comfortable now. Why do you feel more comfortable now, and how does, I guess, in what ways?
Pues al inicio fue muy difícil para mí, desde que llegué, por el idioma, por el sistema de juego es muy diferente o sea, de México al de aquí, juegan muy diferente. Era muy difícil para mí al inicio, y pues poco a poco me empecé a sentir más cómoda, y también con el equipo sentía más como confianza de ella, o sea, con ellas, y pues por ahí.
When she first arrived, there were a lot of factors that were quite difficult for her. The language was one of them, the different system that the US has in comparison to Mexico as far as volleyball. But with time, she's been able to slowly adapt and get used to it, start to know her teammates better, and that's helped her to feel more comfortable and settled in here in Tucson.
And how hard was it for you? You went through a lot when you tried to come back. It was hard to get back into the US, and you got sick. And then sort of to come back and then have a great performance like that. Did that make it even more special?
Sí, pues justo llegué, entrené solo como 3 días, luego salí positiva y pues en el momento sí fue como, o sea, apenas me estaba otra vez adaptando y tuve que hacer cuarentena, pero creo que eso sí fue una gran parte para que en cuanto empezara a entrenar, entrenara con muchas ganas porque ya me había perdido tiempo de entrenamiento y pues creo que fue eso, como las ganas de que había dejado de entrenar y pues volver a la cancha.
So it was frustrating having those complications in the beginning. Finally, she gets here, but then after only 3 days of training, she gets a positive test and has to go into quarantine. So that was frustrating and that was hard. She had just kind of started adapting once again now that she was back, and then this happens. However, when she got the negative test back and was able to reintegrate herself, it just made her want to do better. It motivated her, and she was playing with a lot of desire.
Any other questions for Sophia? Okay, thank you guys.
So
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was great.
Thank you.